On a Monday morning, the tall glass doors of the grand corporate building slid open again and again as employees hurried in, clutching coffee cups and bags. The sound of shoes clicking against the polished floor echoed in the lobby, mixing with the low hum of conversation. Behind the reception desk, the receptionist greeted each person with a practiced smile. The air felt busy but controlled, until something unusual happened. Mr. Harrison, the CEO of the company, walked through the lobby. He was dressed in a dark, expensive suit carrying a leather briefcase, his expression focused. He had an important board meeting that morning, and his mind was already running through figures and presentations. Everyone who saw him stepped aside, offering polite nods. His reputation for discipline and high standards made people speak softly when he was around. But near the reception area, sitting on the edge of a bench, was a little girl. She was no more than 6 years old, wearing a faded pink dress with a bow on the shoulder. Her socks were slightly mismatched, and she clutched a small teddy bear whose fur was worn thin. She swung her legs slowly, humming to herself. No one seemed to know who she belonged to. As Mr. Harrison passed, the little girl's humming stopped. She looked up at him with big, curious eyes. There was no hesitation in her gaze, only pure innocence. Then, in a voice clear enough to carry across the lobby, she asked, "Are you my new daddy?" Everything froze. The receptionist stopped typing. A man who had been signing a delivery form looked up in surprise. Even the security guard by the entrance turned his head. It was as if the question had sliced through the quiet rhythm of the morning. Mr. Harrison halted mid-step, turning to face the child. For a moment, he wondered if he had misheard. "What did you say?" he asked gently, his voice softer than usual. The little girl repeated, "Are you my new daddy?" Her tone wasn't shy. It was curious, almost expectant. A few feet away, a janitor was sweeping the corner near a tall potted plant. His name was Mr. Lewis, a quiet man in his 50s who had worked in the building for many years. The moment he heard the question, his broom froze in place. Slowly, he lifted his head, his eyes darting from the girl to the CEO. His mouth tightened, and something unreadable flickered across his face. Shock, worry, maybe even guilt. Mr. Harrison felt dozens of eyes on him. The entire lobby seemed to be waiting for his answer. His mind scrambled for a response. He wasn't married, had no children, and had never seen this little girl before in his life. Still, something about the earnest way she looked at him made his chest tighten. "I'm not your daddy," he said slowly, unsure how else to respond. "Why do you think I am?" The girl shrugged, her teddy bear slipping slightly in her arms. "That's what Mommy told me." There was a ripple of whispers from a few onlookers. Mr. Harrison glanced toward the receptionist, who looked both concerned and confused. He then looked back at Mr. Lewis, who quickly turned away, pushing his broom in small, distracted strokes as if he hoped no one would notice him. The girl didn't seem upset by the answer. She simply swung her legs again, humming softly. It was as if she had asked a question, received an answer, and now it was time to wait for whatever came next. The receptionist stood up and walked over to her. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" she asked warmly. The girl answered in a small voice that barely reached the people nearby. The receptionist smiled, crouching down so they were at eye level. "Would you like some juice while we wait for your mommy?" The girl nodded, and the receptionist led her toward a small side area near the elevators where there was a table and chairs. She poured her a drink from the employee break room and handed her a pack of crackers. The little girl thanked her politely, still holding her teddy bear. Meanwhile, a security officer discreetly spoke into his radio, asking if anyone had seen a woman looking for a child. It wasn't common for an unaccompanied child to be in the building, and certainly not in the lobby at this hour. Mr. Harrison stood still for a moment, his thoughts unsettled. He glanced again at Mr. Lewis, who was now pretending to dust the edges of a counter, avoiding all eye contact. Something about the janitor's reaction didn't sit right with him. He had known Mr. Lewis as a dependable, quiet worker who rarely spoke more than necessary. But today, his body language told a different story. An employee passing by whispered to another, "Did you hear that?" She called him her new daddy. The words floated just loud enough for Mr. Harrison to catch. A few people chuckled awkwardly, but others simply looked concerned. The mix of curiosity and gossip was already starting to spread. Mr. Harrison finally continued walking, but his steps were slower now. As he reached the elevator, he glanced over his shoulder one more time. The girl was sipping her juice, swinging her legs happily. The janitor had moved farther away, but his shoulders seemed tense, and he kept glancing toward her when he thought no one was watching. Inside the elevator, Mr. Harrison pressed the button for the top floor. The doors closed, but his mind was no longer on the meeting ahead. Instead, it was on a simple, innocent question from a child he had never met, a question that somehow felt heavier than it should have. He didn't know why it mattered to him so much. Perhaps it was the look in her eyes, the way she had spoken with such certainty, or the strange connection he sensed between her and the janitor. Whatever it was, he couldn't shake it. Upstairs in his office, the city skyline stretched beyond the windows, but he barely noticed it. As he set down his briefcase, he found himself replaying the moment in the lobby again and again. The way Mr. Lewis had frozen, the way the girl had said, "That's what Mommy told me." For a man used to solving problems quickly, this one felt different. It wasn't part of his job, and yet he felt drawn to understand it. Somewhere in that small exchange, he sensed there was a story no one else in the building knew. Down in the lobby, the girl finished her juice and began quietly playing with the teddy bear's ear. The receptionist stayed nearby, occasionally glancing toward the door in case her mother arrived. Mr. Lewis kept working, but his movements were slower, distracted. Every now and then, his gaze drifted toward the child, his jaw tightening before. He quickly looked away. Neither the CEO upstairs nor the janitor below knew it yet, but that morning's unexpected question would soon pull them into a situation that would reveal more about their pasts, their choices, and their hearts than they had ever planned to share. And for the little girl holding the teddy bear, the answer she had received was only the beginning of a much bigger change in her life. The little girl sat at the small table in the corner of the lobby, sipping her juice and nibbling at the crackers the receptionist had given her. Her feet dangled above the floor, swinging back and forth without any hurry. Every now and then, she would hug her teddy bear close, as if it was her best friend in the whole world. The receptionist kept her voice gentle as she asked the girl small questions, trying to keep her comfortable. "What's your teddy's name?" she asked. "Benny," the girl said softly. "He's been with me since I was a baby." She smiled proudly, showing the bear's worn-out button eyes and slightly crooked ear. In another corner of the lobby, Mr. Lewis kept sweeping, but his mind was far from his work. His hands moved the broom slowly, and every so often his eyes would shift toward the little girl. He noticed how calm she seemed, and that somehow made him even more uneasy. It was as if she was completely sure she belonged here, even though she didn't. The security guard spoke quietly into his radio again, asking the other guards to check if a woman was looking for a missing child. Still, no one had shown up. That alone made people curious. A child this young, sitting in a corporate lobby by herself, was not something they saw every day. Upstairs, Mr. Harrison tried to focus on the meeting. Charts, sales numbers, and growth plans were being discussed, but his thoughts kept drifting, back to the lobby. He remembered the way she had asked him that question, with no embarrassment, no fear, just a simple, honest curiosity. And then there was the janitor's reaction. Stopping mid-sweep, avoiding eye contact. It wasn't normal. When the meeting ended, he didn't walk back to his office. Instead, he stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the ground. Floor. The doors opened, and he saw the little girl still at the table, the receptionist sitting beside her. Mr. Lewis was now cleaning the glass near the main entrance, but his back was slightly stiff, as though he could feel the CEO's eyes on him. Mr. Harrison walked over to the table. "How are you doing?" he asked the girl with a kind smile. She looked up, a bit surprised, but not shy. "I'm okay." "Are you sure you're not my new daddy?" she asked again, almost like she still wasn't convinced. The receptionist quickly gave an awkward laugh, trying to lighten the moment. "Sweetheart, I think Mr. Harrison is just someone who works here," she said. The girl nodded slowly, but she kept looking at him with those wide, searching eyes. "Where's your mommy?" Mr. Harrison asked gently. "She's working." The girl replied. "She said she had to clean some big offices. She told me to wait for her here." That caught Mr. Harrison's attention. Cleaning? Offices? His gaze instinctively moved toward Mr. Lewis. The janitor was now busying himself with the door frame, still avoiding eye contact. The receptionist added, "We called building security to help find her mother. She's not on our employee list, but she might be here temporarily." Mr. Harrison gave a short nod and turned toward Mr. Lewis. "Lewis," he said firmly. The janitor turned slowly, looking startled. "Yes, sir? Can I speak with you for a moment?" the CEO asked. His tone was polite, but left no room for refusal. Mr. Lewis set his cleaning cloth aside and walked over. "Yes, sir, what is it?" Mr. Harrison studied him for a second. "Do you know this child?" he asked in a low voice, not wanting to make the question too public. Mr. Lewis's eyes flickered toward the girl before he looked down at the floor. "I might," he said carefully. "I know her mother." Something in his voice made Mr. Harrison want to ask more, but he decided not to push in the middle of the lobby. "We'll talk in my office later," he said quietly. "Yes, sir," Mr. Lewis replied, his shoulders dropping slightly. At that moment, the security guard approached. "We got a call from one of the cleaning supervisors," he said. "A woman's asking if her daughter is here. She's on her way down now." Within minutes, a woman appeared through the side entrance. She wore a plain uniform, her hair tied back neatly. She looked tired, but relieved as soon as she saw the little girl. "Sweetheart," she said, hurrying over and kneeling to hug her daughter. "I told you to stay near the cafeteria. Why did you come all the way to the front?" The girl hugged, her back tightly. "I wanted to see if my new daddy was here," she said cheerfully. The mother's face froze for a brief moment before she forced a small laugh. "She has a big imagination," she said to the receptionist and Mr. Harrison, though her eyes darted toward Mr. Lewis quickly, almost nervously. Mr. Harrison caught the glance. He didn't say anything right then, but the pieces in his mind were starting to connect. The mother thanked the receptionist for looking after her daughter, then held the girl's hand and started toward the service hallway. Before they disappeared, the little girl turned back and waved at Mr. Harrison. "Bye, maybe, Daddy," she said with a giggle. The receptionist chuckled softly, but Mr. Harrison wasn't smiling. He was thinking. Mr. Lewis picked up his cleaning cloth again, avoiding Mr. Harrison's eyes. The CEO watched him for a moment, then said quietly, "My office, after your shift." The janitor nodded. "Yes, sir." As the day went on, small whispers began to spread among the employees. "Did you hear about the little girl in the lobby? She called the CEO her new daddy. Do you think she belongs to someone here?" Some people found it funny. Others found it strange. But for Mr. Harrison, it wasn't just strange, it was unsettling. There was something in the mother's look, in the janitor's reaction, in the child's certainty, that told him there was more to the story. By the time the afternoon sun began to cast long shadows across the floor, Mr. Harrison knew he would get his answers. And judging by the way Mr. Lewis kept glancing at the clock, the janitor knew it too. The next conversation between them would not just be about a little girl in the lobby, it would open a door to a past that neither man expected to revisit. The office was quiet in the late afternoon. The sound of distant phones ringing and the soft clicking of keyboards from other rooms barely reached Mr. Harrison's ears. He sat at his desk, staring out the large window at the skyline. But his thoughts were not on the city. They were on the little girl in the lobby and the strange reaction of the janitor. A knock came at the door. "Come in," Mr. Harrison called. The door opened slowly, and Mr. Lewis stepped inside. He looked slightly nervous, holding his cap in his hands. His uniform was neat but worn from years of work. He closed the door behind him and stood just inside the room, as if unsure whether to approach. "Sit down," Mr. Harrison said, gesturing to the chair in front of the desk. Mr. Lewis sat, resting his cap in his lap. His eyes didn't meet the CEO's at first. "You've been with this company for over 20 years, Mr. Harrison began. "I know you as a quiet, dependable man. You've never been late, never caused trouble. But today, when that little girl spoke to me, you froze. You looked like you'd seen a ghost." "Why?" Mr. Lewis took a deep breath. "Sir, I know her mother." "You said that earlier," Mr. Harrison replied. "But I think it's more than just knowing her." Mr. Lewis hesitated, his hands tightening around his cap. "Her name's Claire. We used to know each other a long time ago, back when we were younger." He paused, his eyes drifting to the floor. "We grew up in the same neighborhood. We were close for a while, but then life went different ways." Mr. Harrison leaned back, listening carefully. "Different ways?" "She moved away, got married, and I stayed here." "We lost touch for years," Mr. Lewis continued. "I only saw her again a few months ago. She was not in a good place. Said she'd lost her job, was behind on rent, and didn't have much support. I wanted to help, but I didn't have much myself." The CEO studied him. "So you knew she'd be here today?" Mr. Lewis nodded slowly. "She told me she'd been offered a few days of work through a cleaning agency. Big offices, she said. When she told me the address, I realized it was this building. I thought maybe I could make sure she was okay while she worked." Mr. Harrison thought about the little girl's words. Then why did she tell her daughter? Something about a new daddy? Was she talking about you? A faint, tired smile crossed Mr. Lewis's face, though it didn't reach his eyes. "No, sir, that's the thing. I think she was trying to comfort the little one. Maybe she meant she was hoping someone kind would come into their life to help. You know how kids hear things and make their own picture of it in their head." "But why did she look at you when her daughter said it?" Mr. Harrison asked. Mr. Lewis sighed. "Because I'd promised to help her. I told her I'd try to find a way to make things better. But I couldn't. I've been barely keeping my own bills paid. And when the girl said those words out, loud, I think Claire felt embarrassed. Like the hope she'd been holding on to had just been spoken in front of strangers. The room was quiet for a moment. Mr. Harrison could see the weight in the janitor's expression, the mixture of shame and helplessness. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Mr. Harrison asked. Mr. Lewis's voice was low. "I didn't want to bring personal matters into work. I didn't want anyone to think I was asking for special favors." Mr. Harrison tapped his fingers lightly on the desk, thinking. "You've worked here for 2 decades. You've earned more respect than you think. But you should know, when something affects the people in this building, even outside of work, I take notice." Mr. Lewis looked up, surprised. Just then, a light knock came at the door. It was the receptionist holding a small paper bag. "Sir, I found this on the table where the little girl was sitting. She must have left it behind." Mr. Harrison took the bag and opened it. Inside was a folded drawing made with crayons. It showed 3 figures holding hands, a woman, a little girl, and a man wearing a suit and tie. The man had a briefcase in his other hand. Above them, in shaky letters, it read, "Me, Mommy, and my new daddy." Mr. Harrison stared at the drawing. For a long moment before carefully folding it back, he looked at Mr. Lewis. This isn't just about a misunderstanding, he said quietly. This is about hope. That little girl is looking for someone to make her feel safe, and right now, she thinks it could be me, or you. Mr. Lewis's throat tightened. Sir, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything yet, Mr. Harrison replied. But I think I need to speak with her mother. Mr. Lewis nodded slowly. She'll be here again tomorrow for her shift. I can ask her to meet you. Do that, Mr. Harrison said firmly. And, Lewis, don't think I'm judging you. Life is harder than people admit. Sometimes doing your best still doesn't feel like enough. But I believe we can do something here that makes a difference. The janitor's eyes glistened slightly, though he blinked it away quickly. Thank you, sir. After Mr. Lewis left, Mr. Harrison set the paper bag on his desk. He looked at the drawing again, the simple shapes and bright colors standing out against the sleek surface. It was a child's world, full of belief that better days could come. And now, he felt a quiet responsibility he hadn't expected. Next morning, as the building filled with the usual rush of workers, Mr. Harrison kept glancing at the clock. He didn't know exactly what he was going to say to Claire, but he knew he couldn't ignore the situation. Somewhere between that innocent question in the lobby and the drawing left behind, something had shifted in him, and when the time came, he would be ready to hear the rest of the story, no matter what it was. The next morning, the building was alive with its usual rhythm. Phones rang, people hurried to meetings, and the hum of computers filled the hallways. Yet, for Mr. Harrison, everything else seemed distant. His mind was focused on the meeting. He had arranged with Claire, the little girl's mother. He had asked Mr. Lewis to let her know that he wanted to talk, and now, as he looked at the clock, he realized the moment was almost here. In the lobby, the little girl clutched her teddy. Bare tightly, she had arrived early with her mother, dressed neatly in a simple blue dress, her hair tied into two soft braids. She skipped slightly behind her mother as they walked toward the receptionist, who smiled warmly at her. "Good morning, Claire," the receptionist greeted. "Mr. Harrison would like to see you in his office. He asked if you could come up for a short meeting." Claire's eyes widened slightly and she nodded. "Of course, thank you." She whispered something to her daughter, who nodded in return, a hint of excitement in her eyes. Upstairs, Mr. Harrison waited in his office. The sun was streaming through the large windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor. He had arranged 2 chairs in front of his desk. He straightened the papers on his desk, though he didn't really need them. Today's conversation wouldn't be about charts, profits, or plans. It would be about people, trust, and hope. When Claire entered, she looked nervous but composed. Her daughter remained just outside the office, peeking from behind her mother's legs. Mr. Harrison stood as she entered, offering a calm smile. "Please, have a seat," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Claire sat slowly, folding her hands in her lap. "Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Harrison," she said, softly. "Not at all," he replied. "I wanted to talk because I'm concerned about the little one, and I want to make sure she's safe and happy while she's here." Claire looked down for a moment, her fingers twisting nervously. "I appreciate that. I just don't know how to make everything right. I'm doing my best, but it never feels enough." Mr. Harrison leaned forward slightly. "I understand. I've seen how hard life can be. And I've noticed that sometimes, even when we try, it's not always enough to make the people we love feel secure. But the important thing is that we care, and that we take steps to help." Claire's eyes lifted to meet his, a mix of relief and worry shining in them. "I don't want her to think that nobody will care for her if I'm not around. That's why she said what she did yesterday. She was speaking from her heart," Mr. Harrison said gently. Kids have a way of seeing what adults sometimes forget. She felt safe with you, and she saw kindness in Mr. Lewis and in me. Her words were simple, but they carried hope. Claire nodded, blinking rapidly to hold back tears. I don't want to fail her. I've been through a lot, and sometimes it feels like the world is against me. Mr. Harrison regarded her carefully. You're not failing her, Claire. You're trying, and that counts for a lot. But sometimes, trying isn't enough on its own. We need support, and you have people here who can help if you let them. Claire's lips trembled. I don't even know how to ask for help. I'm scared of being judged or turned away. You don't have to be scared here, Mr. Harrison said firmly. I don't judge, and I can see that you care deeply for your daughter. That's what matters most. She looked at him, her voice soft. Do you really mean that? After yesterday, when she called you her new daddy? I do, he said. I understand that she's looking for love and support, not a replacement for you, and I can help if you want me to. But the first step is being honest and talking about it. That's what you're doing now, and that's very brave. Claire's shoulders relaxed a little, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. She nodded, taking a deep breath. I want her to grow up feeling safe. I want her to know she's loved, even when things get hard. Then we start there, Mr. Harrison said gently. We make sure she has the support she needs, and we make sure you have it too. He leaned back in his chair, considering the next words carefully. I also want to talk about Mr. Lewis. He's been helping behind the scenes, quietly making sure you both are okay. He cares for both of you, even if he doesn't always know the right way to show it. Claire's eyes widened. He does? She whispered. I didn't want to ask for help from anyone else. I thought I had to manage it all myself. You don't, Mr. Harrison said firmly. You have people who care, who want to help. That's not weakness, that's strength, knowing when to accept help and when to let others support you. For a moment, Claire was silent. Then she said softly, I think I've been too proud. I didn't want to ask because I thought I had to do it all alone. But seeing how she looks at the world, I realize that she needs more than I can give by myself. Mr. Harrison smiled. That's a very honest observation, Claire. And now, you have choices. You can let people help, and you can build a network of support that strengthens your family. At that moment, the little girl peeked inside the office. Her eyes met Mr. Harrison's, and she gave a shy wave. Mr. Harrison smiled and waved back. Claire glanced down at her daughter and smiled. Go back to the lobby, sweetie, she said gently. I'll be with you soon. The little girl nodded. Returning to the receptionist with a happy skip, her teddy bear held tightly in her arms. Mr. Harrison turned back to Claire. The next step is simple. Let's create a plan. We can start with small steps. Maybe Mr. Lewis can help coordinate a safe schedule for work, meals, and some support from other employees who care. You don't have to do it alone. Claire nodded, a mixture of relief and hope spreading across her face. I would like that. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. I really would. Over the next hour, they discussed practical matters, how to ensure the little girl was safe while her mother worked, how to manage transportation, and how Mr. Lewis could help monitor things without making the child feel uncomfortable. Every detail was considered, every concern addressed. By the time they finished, Claire felt a weight lifted. She realized that she didn't have to face life's difficulties alone. She had someone who cared, someone she could trust, and someone who understood her struggles. As she stood to leave, Mr. Harrison handed her the crayon drawing from the previous day. Keep this, he said. It's a reminder that hope can be found in the simplest things, even a child's imagination. Claire's eyes glistened. I will. Thank you. Truly. Mr. Harrison nodded. Tomorrow we continue, but for today, take this moment. Breathe. Know that you're not alone. Outside the office, Mr. Lewis was waiting, leaning slightly against the wall. When he saw Claire, he straightened up. She walked over and smiled warmly. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything you've done for us. He nodded, feeling a sense of pride mixed with relief. I just want to make sure she's safe, he said simply. She is, Claire replied softly, because of you, and now because of other people too. As the little girl played in the lobby, oblivious to the seriousness of adult decisions, Mr. Harrison watched from the elevator. A quiet satisfaction settled in his chest. He knew that small actions today could shape a brighter future for this little girl and her mother. And though he couldn't take the place of a father, he could stand as a protector, a guide, and someone who truly cared. That afternoon marked a turning point. The little girl's innocent question, spoken so boldly, had sparked a chain of events that no one could have predicted. A simple act of concern, a quiet conversation, and a willingness to help had begun to change lives. And for Mr. Harrison, it was a reminder that even in a world of high-stakes meetings and corporate decisions, humanity and kindness were always the most important choices. The following morning felt different in the building. There was the usual buzz of activity, phones ringing, printers humming, the chatter of people moving between offices, but underneath it all, there was a sense of hope that hadn't been there before. Mr. Harrison arrived early, as always, but today he paused at the lobby door and watched the little girl skip across the floor, her small feet barely making a sound. She clutched her teddy bear tightly, her eyes bright with excitement. Claire followed closely, her steps more steady than yesterday. She had dressed simply but neatly, a soft smile on her face. She seemed calmer, more confident. Something had shifted overnight, and Mr. Harrison could see it. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, young lady, Mr. Harrison greeted warmly as they entered. Good morning, sir, Claire replied, her voice steady. The little girl waved shyly. Good morning, she said, her voice full of innocence. Mr. Harrison smiled and gestured for them to follow him to a small meeting room nearby. Let's talk for a few minutes before your shift starts, he said. They sat down, and for a moment, there was a quiet pause. Claire looked at her daughter, then back at Mr. Harrison, as if trying to measure how much to share. Yesterday was unexpected, Mr. Harrison began gently. Your daughter asked a question that made everyone stop and think, and it made me realize that life isn't just about schedules and numbers. Sometimes it's about people and the hope they hold. Claire nodded. I know. I was worried she might have misunderstood things. But when she asked, it was like she was trying to reach out. She wanted someone she could trust, someone kind. You're doing your best for her, Mr. Harrison said, and you're not alone. There are people here who want to help, including Mr. Lewis. Claire looked down at her hands and whispered, I've been so worried about asking for help. I didn't want anyone to think I was weak or failing. You're not weak, Mr. Harrison assured her. You're human. You care for your child, and that shows strength. Accepting help doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're wise enough to see that even the strongest people need support. Claire's eyes glistened, but she smiled softly. I think I can do this now. I can let people help, and I can focus on what matters most, keeping my daughter safe and happy. Good, Mr. Harrison said. That's the first step. And today, I want you to meet someone who's been quietly helping behind the scenes. At that moment, the door opened and Mr. Lewis stepped in. He stood tall, his uniform neat, and he gave a small, respectful nod to both Claire and her daughter. Hello, he said softly. I'm here to make sure everything goes smoothly today, and to make sure she's safe while you work. The little girl's eyes widened, and she clutched her teddy bear a little tighter. She looked up at Mr. Lewis, then at her mother, and whispered, "Is he going to help us?" "Yes," Claire said gently. "He's here to help us." A small smile spread across the girl's face. She held out her hand toward Mr. Lewis. "Thank you," she said. Mr. Lewis knelt slightly and took her hand. "You're very welcome," he said. "I promise to help as best I can." The little girl beamed, and Mr. Harrison could see the tension in the room start to ease. There was a sense of partnership forming, a bond between the child, her mother, and the people who genuinely cared for them. "Let's go over a plan for today," Mr. Harrison suggested. "We'll start small. Mr. Lewis can help with schedules, making sure she has safe places to be. You can focus on your work, and she can have her routine without fear or worry." Claire nodded eagerly. "Yes, that sounds perfect." Over the next hour, they went over the plan in detail. They talked about when the little girl would have lunch, when she could play safely, and how Mr. Lewis could keep an eye on her without making her feel uncomfortable. Every question was answered, every concern addressed. By the time they finished, there was a clear sense of structure and security. Afterward, Claire's daughter sat quietly with her teddy bear, watching the adults talk. She didn't fully understand all the arrangements, but she felt the warmth and safety in the room. She knew that people cared, and that was enough for now. Mr. Harrison stood and smiled at Claire. "You're doing an amazing job," he said. "It's not easy, but you're making it work. And that little girl, she's lucky to have you." Claire's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled brightly. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot." Mr. Lewis stepped forward. "We'll make sure she's safe," he said again, "and that she has what she needs to feel happy and secure." The little girl's eyes lit up. She hugged her teddy bear tightly and whispered, "Thank you." Later that afternoon, as the shift ended, Claire and her daughter prepared to leave. Mr. Harrison and Mr. Lewis watched them from the office window, seeing the little girl skip beside her mother. For the first time in weeks, Claire walked with a sense of confidence, her daughter holding her hand tightly but happily. On their way out, the little girl turned back and waved at Mr. Harrison and Mr. Lewis. "Bye! Thank you!" she called. "Bye!" "Sweetheart," Mr. Harrison called back. "Take care." Mr. Lewis smiled and nodded. "See you tomorrow," he said softly. As they walked down the street, Claire looked at her daughter and whispered, "You're safe now. We have people who care. You don't have to worry." The little girl smiled and hugged her mother's hand. "I know, Mommy, I know." Back in the office, Mr. Harrison and Mr. Lewis reflected on the day. Both men understood that while the problems hadn't disappeared, they had taken the first important steps toward building a safe, supportive environment for the little girl and her mother. "Today was a good day," Mr. Harrison said quietly. "Yes, sir," Mr. Lewis replied. "It was, and I think things will get better from here." Mr. Harrison nodded. "They will, because sometimes all it takes is a little attention, a little care, and a willingness to step forward. That's how lives change." The days that followed were filled with small victories. The little girl grew more confident at the office, knowing that she was safe. Claire felt supported, learning to ask for help when needed. Mr. Lewis continued his quiet work, ensuring everything ran smoothly and providing comfort when necessary. And Mr. Harrison, observing all of this, felt a deep satisfaction. It wasn't about being a CEO or a janitor or a parent. It was about humanity, about kindness, and about the small actions that create trust and safety. Every conversation, every gesture, every smile had contributed to a change that was visible and real. Weeks later, the little girl drew another picture. This time, all three figures were smiling broadly. Above them, she had written, "Mommy, me, and our helpers." She handed it to her mother, who smiled and hugged her tightly. Claire looked at the drawing and whispered, "We're really going to be okay?" "Yes," the little girl said softly, her eyes shining. "We are." In that moment, Mr. Harrison and Mr. Lewis, standing outside the office watching them, felt the quiet power of hope. They realized that their actions, simple, caring, and thoughtful, had made a lasting difference. And for the little girl, the world had become a little brighter. She felt safe, loved, and understood. She knew that life could be challenging, but with people who cared by her side, she could face anything. The story of that day became a turning point, not only for the little girl and her mother, but also for everyone involved. It reminded them all that compassion and understanding could create bonds that change lives forever. And as the sun set over the city skyline, the office building, once a place of routine work and quiet halls, had become a place of hope, connection, and a new beginning for a family who had almost lost their way, but had now found their path together. From that day forward, every time the little girl stepped into the building, she walked with confidence, knowing she was safe. And every time Claire looked around, she saw people who truly cared, reminding her that even in the toughest moments, help, kindness, and love could always be found. And so, what began as a simple, innocent question, "Are you my new daddy?" had become a story of care, trust, and the quiet power of people willing to step forward and help those in need. The story ends with a heartwarming resolution, showing how a small act of kindness and concern can grow into trust, support, and lasting positive change.